All right, all right. Welcome to the Strong Side Podcast. My name's Mitchell Black, and I'm your host. Today, we have an amazing guest, one of our Strong Side athletes who has done everything from a 5K to a 100-mile running race. And today, we're going to talk a lot about mental fortitude, and we're going to talk about effort over everything. Before we get rocking and rolling, please make sure you give this podcast a 5-star review on Apple Music or Spotify. Share it with your friends. This is live streamed. You can comment your questions right now on our Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, and we'll hear them, we'll answer them, and I'm sure that you're going to have a lot of questions. So like I was saying, this idea of effort over everything, you can come in one way and leave another, and the effort is what allows that to happen. How do you get to your next level? How do you improve yourself? How do you get where you want to go? Well, a lot of it has to do with effort and the amount of effort that you're putting into each task. So I'm super excited to meet with Mr. Adam today, who, like I said, has done everything from a 5K to a 100-mile running race. So, Mr. Adam, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. I don't have a 100-miler today, so it's a good day.
That's a lot.
It is. It is a lot, and it seems like a lot more when you start, and when you're halfway done, it doesn't even look like that big of a deal because you still have 50 miles to go.
Yeah, let's just start with that story. Like, how long does 100 miles of running take?
If you're really fast, like the pros, it takes like 12 hours. If you're hauling, and those people are really annoying out on the course because they don't even look like they're working that hard. If you're like me, it takes more like almost 28 hours.
That's a long time. Like, are you napping or?
No, I wasn't napping, which maybe I should say I was napping because maybe that would make it sound like it takes less time. But no, I'm really good at staying up all night, and and you do have people who are pacing you. So for the second half of the race, you can have pacers. And so the specific one that I did, it was really easy to break it up into 25-mile segments. And so my friend Stephen Price paced me for miles 50 to 75, and then somebody very well, Kate Brune.
Yeah.
Kate paced me for the last bit. Either that or it was the other way around. And I physically could not have gotten to the end without the help of those two people. You get disoriented. It's dark, and even if you have headlamps and it was cold, and there's a phenomenon that you've probably experienced before in the longer races. You stop wanting to eat.
Yeah, 100. You think you're going to be so hungry.
Yeah, and it's not your stomach isn't bothering you or anything. You just don't want to chew anything. You don't want to put anything in your mouth to eat it, and that was something that they were there to help me get through. So it's something that it's a mental challenge at that point, more so than a physical challenge, because you're already hurting, you want it to be over, you're tired, and it's not your muscles that get you past that piece. It's all of the mental preparation that you've done, and and just the want to, put in the effort, get it out. Get it. You can keep going. And as I know, some of you might know Jeff Coggins, and he pointed out a phrase that I like to use. That's forward is a pace, and
that's good.
That just was going through my mind an awful lot. Funny story, Steve. That was the first time he'd ever paced anybody in an ultramarathon.
And they're running with you?
They're running with it. Yeah, it's a lot.
They don't get like a golf cart or anything?
No, they don't get a golf cart. They got to actually do the work. So Steve ran 25 miles and Kate ran 25 miles. A funny story about Steve that Kate told me later is that so they can't pace you for the first half of the race. So during that part of the race, they went to a Barnes & Noble, and Steve's all nervous about, what am I going to do? How am I going to keep Adam occupied? And so he's looking at all these joke books and trying to memorize jokes. I didn't know any of this until later. And so it's the middle of the night, and we're out on the course, and Steve, and it's quiet, and we're like, there's nobody else around. We were in Umstead National Park in North Carolina, and there's nobody else around. It's pitch black, and the only lights are your lights, and we're going slowly. And I remember we're walking, running up a hill, and it's the one big hill, a long hill in the course. And Steve's trying to tell me jokes, and they're terrible. I don't even remember what the jokes were, but it was so annoying. And I finally had just said, Steve, man, I love you to death. I really appreciate that you're trying to keep me occupied. Just shut up.
That's funny.
Because these are so annoying. They're not funny. And just talk, if you're going to have to, if you say anything, if you want to talk, let's just talk about the weather,
Yeah.
anything. But, and dude, I love you, but this is just not funny.
It's weird that like eating thing. I mean, I've done a full Ironman. I'm about to do another one. And with you saying 28 hours, like it'll take me like 14 hours to do the whole Ironman. So I can't even imagine what doubling that time is. But my experience with what now seems like so little, 14 hours, it's this stress volume is not normal. Like it's not healthy for your body. It's all mental. So like your body's under significant stress. And I remember not wanting to eat, but you have to feed it anyways because your body thinks that it's dying, is trying to protect itself.
Yeah, it is the strangest thing to see something you like the taste of. Because most ultra marathons, you have a lot of choices of food. You can bring what you want. There's a lot of aid stations, and at ultras they usually have really good food at the aid stations. I mean, sandwiches, pizza, anything salty they'll have. So I was given a piece of advice somewhere in the second half where you have your drop bags at some of the aid stations. You can have drop bags. Put some food in there that you will really, really enjoy as like this is your prize. And so at that point in time, I was really into Oreos, which apparently is a pathetic triathlete thing. The Pathetic Triathletes group. Shout out to the Facebook group out there. Very into Oreos. Well, I was very into Oreos at that time, and I had a bag of Oreos, just like a Ziploc bag, not a whole sleeve.
Not a whole sleeve.
No. I just had 2 Oreos in there, and I remember taking one bite out of one, and it tastes like cardboard, and I didn't want to chew it, and that was the first time I'd ever experienced that, and it was the weirdest thing. Was that okay? But I've got to eat something, and I don't even remember what it was. I think I ate a banana from the table that they had set up, but just not wanting to eat. But just again, that's the mental challenge. Is it's not as much physical as it is finding a way to get past that and finish. Otherwise, you're going to stop in the middle of the course and not be able to continue.
That was going to be my next question. Is there a food that you really liked? Like I wound up getting really sick, and then on mile 10 of the marathon, apparently Lay's potato chips saved my life.
So it's not so much one food that I found that I liked. I found a trick that seemed to work, and it was at another race that I did called the Javelina 100, which is out in Arizona. And at one of the aid stations, they had crystallized ginger. So it's like ginger that's been dried and I guess baked with sugar or whatever. And many of you out there will probably know that ginger ale will soothe an upset stomach, things like that. And ginger is good for that. Well, crystallized ginger, if you can handle the spiciness of it, it does fills a lot of the same purpose. And so I tried some because I got to an aid station. I didn't want to eat anything, and I knew that I had a lot of race left, and that I had to do something. And I was like, you know what, I'll try anything. So I ate some of the crystallized ginger, and by the time I got to the next aid station, which was 6 miles away, I was starving. I was ready to eat anything. And at that point, they had pizza, and I was like, yes, pizza, totally. I'm going to eat that, and it worked. I mean, that saved that particular ultra and the two others that I did after it. I would carry around crystallized ginger with me.
That's awesome. So like so we talk about food, but like when was the first time you wanted to quit, and how did you get through it?
Oh boy.
Or even maybe not quit,
no,
at least doubt.
Yeah, there's so I'll tell you the first time I DNF'd a race, because I've DNF'd 2 races in my entire life. All of it did not finish. Yeah, and one of them was the second 100-miler that I tried, and giving them my race bib was the hardest thing I had to do. I sat there. I twisted my ankle. So the Javelina 100 course goes through Pemberton State Park outside Phoenix, Arizona.
So it's a 100-mile trail run?
It's a trail run, and it's at that time I think it was 7 laps of the course, so slightly under 20 miles, or a bit like I don't even remember at that time. They've changed it a number of times since then, but at that point it was still 7 laps, and I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing, and it was the easy part of the course, easy meaning that it was not so rocky, and I just stepped into a gully that I saw coming, and I took a short stepped it and hit the ground before I thought I was going to hit the ground, and twisted my ankle really badly, and limped my way to the finish, or to the start finish line which was the beginning of each lap, and my ankle had swollen up a bit, and I went to the aid station, and they tried to fix it. They tried to help me, and it was just in so much pain. Thankfully, I didn't break anything. But I sat there for about 2 hours trying just to will myself to get back up. And every time I stood back up to go, it just hurt so badly. And eventually, thankfully, my crewmate who was there helping me, who was a friend of mine who lives out there, she said, like, look, you can barely walk. You've got to give it up. You're going to hurt yourself. And that was even hearing that. It still took me another 20 minutes before I could stand up, and I don't mean physically stand up, but I mean just mentally get myself to stand up and hand them the bib. So that's the idea when you DNF, is hand them your race bib so that you're not going to be tracked anymore.
Oh, I can feel that story. It
was so awful. I felt like I had failed. I just really felt like I had failed, and it took me a while to get over the fact that I hadn't failed. I had messed up. I hadn't paid attention when I should have been paying attention to where I was stepping, and I got hurt. And better to live to fight another day. And I think it was that might have been the 2000. Either that was 2000. That might have been 2015. But in 2017, I was back there and I did the 100K version of the race.
So what's that, like 55 miles?
62 miles.
So, yeah, okay.
And so I somewhat conquered Javelina. And then that was the last really long race that I've done, was that 62 mile, or the 100K. And I was already here at StrongSide by that time.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember you going to do it. And I was like, well, this dude's already crazy. He'll fit in just fine. But it didn't always start with 100-mile runs. Like, you have a pretty cool story of you.
Yeah, it didn't start with running. I did not grow up an athletic kid. I would go through periods where I would be athletic, and then I'd be pudgy, and then I'd be athletic and I'd be pudgy as I grew and a little bit, and then I would kind of grow into that height, and then I'd grow a little bit more, and so it wasn't until, I guess, just before my senior year in high school that I actually did any working out ever of any kind. And I went to a local gym and every day, and I was in pretty decent shape. And then I went off to college and just paid attention to academics and partying for a little while. But then I kind of just lost my way in terms of athletics, going in and out of different things. And I know I showed you the picture from 2008. I'd gotten up to about 225 pounds. So for those of you who can't see, I'm only about 5'9", and I don't have a really big frame, and 225 is a lot of weight for somebody my size. And I was pretty unhappy with myself. And in October of that year, I ruptured my L4, L5 disc.
How'd you
really
do that?
badly. I don't even know what it was. I think it was a long time coming because my back had been bothering me. But my best friend's son's bar mitzvah was that morning. And one of the biggest honors that you could be given at a bar mitzvah is to hold up the Torah, the scrolls, and you kind of widen them out like this. I don't know if you can see. And you show them to the congregation, so you're showing them everything. And at I'm holding up this thing. And at that time of year, because so as you're reading the Torah, as you go through the year, different amounts of it get rolled up onto the different sides. So at that point of year, the left side is very heavy, and I'm extraordinarily right-handed. and everything was okay. By that night, I was in the hospital.
You went from Torah to hospital.
We finished up. Everything was okay. We dropped my car off for some service. We went to go pick up the suits for the party that night. This was earlier in the day, and it was starting to bother me. I was starting to ache, and I said, I told Karen, I said, why don't you and the kids go to the party? I can barely move. And then while they were at the party, I called her and I said, hey, honey, either you're going to come home and take me to the hospital or I'm going to call 911.
Oh, my goodness.
And so she came home because she does everything for everybody else. And let me say, I meant to say this earlier, nothing that I've achieved, not a single thing that I've achieved would have been physically possible without Karen. And anybody that knows her knows that she will do anything for anybody else before she'll do something for herself.
She's team mom.
She is 100% the person that makes everything possible. So I just want to make sure that before anything else happens, that she gets all the credit because she deserves all of it. So she comes home, and she's a physical therapist. So she loaded me into the back. She had a big SUV at the time. We put all the seats down, so basically like an ambulance. Loaded me in because I couldn't bend. I was stuck, and took me to the hospital where the stupid doctor thought that I had a ITB issue. This was several years before I'd started running. There was no reason for me to have an ITB issue. I had ruptured a disc is what had happened. Thankfully, the nurse, whose name was Eric, who I will never forget, actually figured it out, made sure that the doctors at least gave me some painkillers. And to make a long story short, I recovered fully from that. A lot of physical therapy, no surgery, but some steroid epidurals. One of my women friends, when I was telling her about the symptoms, because like sciatic pain, and I had steroid epidurals, and her response was, "So when's the baby due?" So I think most of the women who've been pregnant out there will understand that joke.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I hear women complain the exact same thing.
So that was October of 2008. So from 2008 2009 was most of the recovery period, and then kind of late in 2009, I think it might have been the end of 2009, say the end of 2009, beginning of 2010. I was okay, but I still weighed a lot. And I remember I was in the pool with my kids, who were at 7 and 11 at the time, and I could barely pick them up in the water. Like, not out of the water, in the water. And we played for about 5 minutes, and I had to get out, and I was huffing and puffing. And I sat there on the chaise lounge and said to myself, there's a little bit of heart disease history in your family. How are you going to stay alive to watch these kids grow up? And and that was a big moment in my life, but I didn't know what to do. So my son played Little League Baseball at Sandy Plains Baseball, local shout out to Sandy Plains Baseball. And the season was starting up in that January of 2010, and I would drop him off at the park, and then I would go walk around the park, and I would walk like 3 miles while he was practicing. And I think I started Nutrisystem at that time, which is great for getting weight off. It's terrible for maintenance, but and you don't really learn anything about actual nutrition. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But I started walking and gradually was able to walk faster, and I was losing some weight. And a gentleman that I would see pretty regularly, he was out there walking his dog all the time. One day he said to me, we didn't know each other, we would say hello. And one day he said to me, "Hey, I've been seeing you here at the park a lot, and you've lost a lot of weight. Do you ever think about running some of this stuff?" Because I was always just walking. I said, "No, I never even thought about it." "Well, think about it." I said, "When I get down a little bit more, maybe I'll give it a try." So I dropped another 5 or 10 pounds, and okay, I started running up the hills. And that's how I got started running. And that was when I was, that was 2010. So what was I, 44 at that time? And next thing I know, I have to check the dates that I even wrote down. I did that for about a year. I started just running and jogging, and now I'm actually did some on the roads and decided to sign up for a 5K. I had signed up for, it was the Big Pumpkin 5K.
Where's that at?
It's up in Roswell.
Okay.
Off Hardscrabble, and it was awesome. They had awesome swag. It was a long sleeve tech T-shirt that I am so angry at myself. I lost. I don't know where it is because it was a really cool shirt. A big pumpkin on it, and it was blue and yeah, waxing poetic about a shirt. But anyway, I finished that race in a little more than 25 minutes. And I thought,
that's pretty good.
Yeah, I was really happy.
Yeah.
I was like, this is great. I love this.
Like 8-minute miles.
It's in the 8-minute mile,
Yeah.
eight-ish minute mile range. And I really enjoyed it. And so I did a bunch more 5Ks. And that was a lot of fun. And I was like, hey, this 5K thing, I can do this. Maybe I should sign up for a 10K. And I want to say I signed up for the Possum Trot 10K, which was out in off Azalea and where the Chattahoochee Nature Center is.
You sign up for a lot of interesting named races.
I do tend to like the names, and the swag is really.
Did you get a possum T-shirt? Please,
we did. Yes, there was a shirt with the
Oh.
possum. Absolutely. And that went really well. And so every time something would go really well, and okay, well, what's the next thing? And I kind of noticed a pattern that I seem to like challenging myself to what's the next thing, what's the next thing, what's the next thing, and I don't even really know why I want to do those, other than just, hey, it's the next thing. And so the next thing I know, I'm signed up for the Locomotive Half Marathon, which was at that time ran around Town Center Mall and up and around the neighborhoods in that area. And it was a drizzly, ugly day. And I hadn't trained well enough because I didn't know what training was. I was just running. I'd just go out and run. Hey,
You'll run farther today than yesterday.
I can run 8 miles, so I can run 13 miles, right? So so I followed that mantra, and I got to mile 12, and you're now just going around the mall. You're on the outside of the mall, and my calves locked up. And funny story time, I finished the race walking, but I finished in just under 2 hours. And
which is still really good.
So I'm thrilled about that, but I'm crying because my calves are screaming in pain, and it's drizzling, and it's ugly, and the weather was awful. And there are 3 like therapy beds tables lined out, and 2 of them are undercover, and one of them is not. Surprise, the one that's undercover, nobody's on it. But the other 2 have lines of people waiting in the rain to get dry. To get therapy. I don't get it. And so I walked over to the one that was not occupied, and the guy there said, well, as long as you don't mind getting rained on. I said, well, I'm getting rained on now. So I get on the table, and he's digging into my calves, and I'm in so much pain. And now remember back to the fact that I said Karen is a physical therapist. She was there. And let me tell you something, it is no fun when your significant other is geeking out about, hey, wow, these muscles here, dig really deep in there because it feels like his muscles, the muscles in the fascia are like this honeycomb pattern. I remember that word. I will never forget
You're
that
like,
word.
not the honeycomb.
Not the honeycomb.
No.
I was crying. I was in so much pain. But so yeah, that was my funny memory from that race.
Sounds like a good time.
Oh yeah, a good time was had by all. So I then signed up for another half marathon.
Of course.
Totally did it for the bling. I just had a really cool medal. And I remember after the race, again, I finished really well. I was happy. I'd done even better. I think that was a 1:52 finish, something like that. And so I was thrilled. And my friend Lisa called me, and we're talking. I'm in the hotel room afterwards. I'm preparing an ice bath, and she says, "So you ready to sign up for a full marathon?" She had done a half marathon before, and I said, Lisa, I can't barely even walk across the bathroom floor, and you're asking me if I want to do a full marathon. No way, I can never do a full marathon. So a few months later, we're training for a marathon, and we did the Savannah Rock and Roll Half, which I think is the one that Zach did.
Yeah, I heard that's a really, really good one.
It is a really good race. It's a good course. They'd had a bunch of logistical problems the year before, which was the first time they ever did it, and they did a great job the year that we did. They fixed all of those problems. It was just such a great time. And I remember I actually got a training plan and trained really hard for it, but just to finish. I just wanted to be able to finish. That was my whole goal. So I didn't care what time it was that I was going to finish, 5 hours, 6 hours. I really didn't care. And I remember lining up, and as soon as I lined up in the group, that's when I started getting nervous. It's like, oh boy. But then the race started, and I think I high-fived every single person from mile 0 to mile 26.2.
They're just sticking their hand out asking for it, bro.
I was like the happiest runner out there. I was slow, fast. I didn't care. I was just excited to be out there. And like I said, I think I was the goofiest person out there. And I don't have any really good stories of on the course. I don't really remember a lot of that race. I do remember going through, like, it was either high school or a local high school or college, and they ran us around the track one time, and then they had their mascot out there, and I was just so happy to high five the mascot when there were other runners who were like totally not paying attention to him.
Yeah.
I felt so bad for him. So I ran over to high five the mascot. But to get to the finish, a lot of my stories are finish line stories are better.
Those are the best ones.
Yeah, they're the best ones. And I had a whole cheering crew there for me. Lisa had injured herself training, so she was only able to do the half marathon, but she had her stepdaughter come down, and her stepdaughter brought 2 of her roommates from college. And funny story, turns out they all know my daughter's cheer coach really well, and they were roommates, in fact. So
that was cool.
It was a totally funny thing that happened. But they're cheering for me as I finished the race. So I had a great cheering section, and Amanda, who's Lisa's stepdaughter, who I've known for a really long time. I've known her since she was a little girl, and she had a pizza place picked out for where we were going to go eat, and I was so looking forward to eating. But I was, again, common theme, I was in a lot of pain. My legs were just wrecked from the race, and we're walking and we're walking and we're walking and we're walking, and we're not finding the pizza place, and it feels like we've been walking for a mile. And I just sat down and I said, Amanda, I love you to death, but I can't go any further. I'm getting so angry because I am so hungry, and I just want some pizza.
Eat something.
And it turns out, so around the corner there was another pizza place that we went to. But I like, oh, gosh, I didn't want to make her. I felt so bad that I was going to make her feel bad. But yeah, that's my story about my first marathon. And people have asked me over the years, what led you to doing that next race? What led you to doing that?
That was going to be my next question. Like, because you're describing turmoil and like pain.
I know. And I have no answer. I cannot tell you what was going through my head, except that once you get past that moment of pain, you know, you're feeling that moment of pain, but at the same time, you're feeling this incredible high of accomplishment, right? And it's worth it. It's really worth it, because that pain will go away in a few minutes, and that sense of accomplishment never goes away. So, you know, going back to the theme, the effort is worth it, because like you keep that no matter, like I lost that Big Pumpkin t-shirt, but I will never forget how it felt crossing that finish line. I can picture myself that at that church where you go in, I think the Harvest, I can't remember the name of the church. It's a great great charity that they do it for. And I can picture myself crossing that finish line, being so happy with myself. And same thing with every race that I've done, is crossing that finish line, feeling like you've done something that you couldn't do before. And it's just an incredible feeling. And the only thing that I've found over the years that is even better than that is seeing people that you've helped accomplish the same thing, that you know what it feels like to have that big accomplishment. Knowing that you helped somebody else do it is probably the only better thing that I felt. Helping my friend Callie, pacing her to a sub 2 hour half marathon. And there's a great picture somewhere on Facebook of the two of us crossing the finish line. And I think I have this really incredulous look on my face. I'm looking at my watch just to make sure that we're crossing in time, and she's in front, and she's just like ecstatic.
Yeah.
And I coached, volunteer coached for the Kilometer Kids program for a while, and seeing them do their first 5K, and seeing some of their parents do their first 5Ks. I mean, that's just, if there's anything better than finishing something on your own, it's watching somebody that you helped that didn't think they could do it.
Is there something that you use, like effort-wise or thought-wise, when the days come that you don't want to go run or you don't want to go do your thing?
Yeah. It's just show up, you know, whatever. So I kind of wrote down a couple of phrases that really mean a lot to me. I already told you, forward is a pace. Another one that really means a lot to me is whatever your 100% is for that day, give it. And I think I'm sure just about everybody here has heard me say that before. It doesn't matter what you can give that day, as long as you show up and give whatever 100% is, you win.
100%. Yeah.
You win. I mean, it's as simple as that. If some days I can lift 95 pounds. Some days I can only lift 75 pounds. I won both days. It really doesn't matter. And that's what kind of gets me to come in the next day. When, in fact, yesterday was a really hard workout. The Ava.
The running ground overhead. Yeah.
So we couldn't run because they were pulling down a tree out back.
Oh, good.
And so they had everything blocked off during just our class.
Of course.
They had it finished. So we rode. And then lifted weights over our heads.
Which is the same movement, just one without weight, one with weight.
And but okay, so that was not my favorite workout ever, but I did it. And I put in every bit of effort that I had. And so I won. And I'll be back today. So that's the thing, is just whatever you have that day, whatever you can give it, because it's worth it. It's about that effort. Put in the effort, whatever it is that day. You're not going to have it every day. Some days you have enough to do a 25-minute 5K, and some days it's going to be a 32-minute 5K. But you did a 5K. Right?
That's really important. It's really important because like so many people put like their whole life into one result. I gotta PR my back squat today, or I'm like, you just kind of like made up this idea in your head. As long as today you're giving your 100%. I mean, I guess if you went like 2 years and never got better at something, maybe, but as long as every day you're doing the best you can.
Yeah, and look, so I'll be 55 in June, and there's going to come a period in time where the gains aren't going to be as dramatic as I would like. It's just going to happen. We all get there, but it's not necessarily. I've gotten to the point where it's not anymore about can I run faster, for example. I'm not at that. I mean, I like to run faster, but that's not the measure of success. The measure of success is, can I be there the next day? Can I keep doing it? And what are, it's not about adjusting expectations. It's just having that expectation that I'm going to be there and that's going to be my win. Right. So yeah, I love to have PRs.
It goes back to your showing up piece. Like, exactly. I got to be there every day.
Everything comes back to that. And that's just that. And there's another one that, and I'd never known what a good way to word it would be until, one of my, boss's boss has a great phrase, and, it's called always have a beginner's mindset.
Yeah,
and
that's good.
I know you personify that one as well. That you're always trying to learn something, never feel like you know everything. So let's go, going back to yesterday's workout. I know how to lift a bar from ground to overhead. But when Nate is telling us the techniques about how to lift a bar from ground to overhead, I'm paying super close attention. It may not always look like I'm 100% focused because I joke around a lot. But when he's talking, when Ashley's talking about those movements, I'm paying very close attention, and maybe even more close attention to the ones I know than the ones I don't. Because once you know something really well, it's time to go back and learn it over again, because that's where the gains are. I think you said that one time.
Once you master the fundamentals, go back and do it again, except this time pay closer attention.
Exactly. So and a beginner's mind, always have a beginner's mindset. Never think that you know everything. So those are kind of those three guides. Forward is a pace. Always have a beginner's mindset, and whatever your 100% is, give it. Those are kind of the three things that I would say probably guide not just my fitness journey, but just everything in life now.
I really like that. I like the first one. I don't want to say the most, but I really like it because I personally use all the other three, like beginner's mindset, whatever your 100% is. And a lot of people use that to get and stay motivated, which is great. But that first one, forward is a pace, I think it's easy for people to defeat themselves because comparison is the thief of joy. And too often people are like, I lost weight, but they lost more. I PR'd my deadlift, but it's not compared to that person's deadlift. I came 3 times this week. They came 5. Like, dude, who cares? Like, forward, you went from 0 to 5 pounds. You lost 0 weight to 2 pounds. You went from eating 4 times a week Chinese buffets to not. Like, you're winning. Forward is good.
Absolutely. And I look outside. I see, over the years, you might have been out there and you see somebody outside running, or they're walking, but they're clearly trying hard, and maybe they're really overweight. And early in my life, I might have thought, oh wow, what are they trying to do out there? What are they trying? Why are they out there? And I got to the point where I finally now look at that and say, wow, what a winner. That person is out there doing everything they can to be healthy and fit. And I purposely use those healthy and fit because they don't necessarily mean I have a 6-pack.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean what you can lift. It just means being healthy, being able to get to the next day, being able to stay alive long enough to see my kids grow up, which is, like I mentioned early on. Those are the things that I'm doing this for. Now, granted, I like coming in. I like being here. I like the people that are here every day, and it's really that community that's the thing that keeps bringing me back. But the goal is to just stay alive so I can see my kids growing up.
It's a good goal.
Yeah. So
how long can I stay alive?
How long can I stay alive? How long can I stay alive and be healthy? Healthy to do it. Yeah. I want to have a 6-pack. Don't get me wrong.
I get what you're saying. You have one, but
thank you. It's there. Maybe a 4.
But being healthy, like you can be thin, not work out, and eat bad, and you're not fit or healthy. You're just thin.
Yeah.
You're still going to die of the same heart attack.
Exactly. And so, I'll fast forward a little bit in the story to, okay, so I've done some ultra marathons. I did the 100-miler. Hello.
I don't really know what that noise was.
So I've done a bunch of things. I've gotten to a point where I've accomplished a lot of the race distances that I really had an inkling to do. And I kind of started to lose some of the joy of it because I wasn't able to share it with people. There's a lot of lonely training and solitary training, and I didn't really enjoy that part of it anymore. And one day, Glenn up at Rockstar Cheer, I said I was there on a Sunday, and he said, "Hey Adam, have you seen what we've done? What's happening in base?" Base became StrongSide 2.0. And I said, no. And he said, come on over. This guy Mitchell's having an open house. And he dragged me in there, and I walked in, and the first person I saw was Kate Brune.
Who, beginning took you through that race. Yeah.
Exactly. So Kate knew me really well. She knew my personality. And she said, oh, you have to come in. You have to work out here. I mean, Mitchell's personality and your personality, you would fit so well. And I was like, okay, well, Kate knows me pretty well. She's seen me at the worst. She's seen me at the best. And so that was April 30th, 2017. I think was that open house. It was a Sunday.
Don't even remember. I'm glad you do.
May 1st, 2017 was your first day, and I was there. So that was my first day. And I remember you putting me on the assault bike, and I felt pretty good about myself because I had endurance. I could do that. And so I felt pretty good about myself. And then doing a lot of other movements, I didn't feel so good about myself anymore. Now, I joke about that, but that day and all the rest of the days that I've been here, the thing that really, it's not even so much that she was right about your personality and my personality, I think. But what made it special was, Ron and Becky and Steph Schumann and Megan and everybody, many people who are not here anymore, some who are still here, coming over and just giving me high fives. Because even though I couldn't do a lot of the I physically could not do a bunch of the movements, but I was trying. I was giving it that 100% effort every time. and they were cheering for me more than they were even cheering for themselves. And that support organization, that having that support team, was like the best part. I know, I remember, like, back to the story about my first marathon, where the best thing was the end. You know, that's where I have the best story, is where I have a great cheering section. And that's what helps you get through every day. Why, you know, I want to come in. If I don't, maybe there's some days where I don't feel like actually working out, but I want to come in because I want to see everybody. And there's also the fact that I know that if I may have had a terrible day, by the time I leave here, I'm going to be in a much better mood. So those are all parts of how you get through that every day. But again, I'll fast forward even further. I still wasn't eating really well. I mean, I was fitter, but I still wasn't watching what I was eating. And fast forward to August of 2019, and I signed up for a 5K, mainly because I was embarrassed that I didn't feel like I could do the half marathon. It was the Area 13.1 half marathon, and Corey had signed up for the half marathon, and I was like, okay, I'll do the 5K. As it turns out, I know the race director, and he kind of cajoled me into doing at least the 5K. So I signed up for the 5K, and Corey and I show up for the race, and we took a picture before the race. And I looked at that picture later, and I was really embarrassed at what the picture looked like. And then I think I was even more embarrassed that it was everything I could do on a super flat course to finish in just under 30 minutes. Okay, I understand that for some people that's an amazing time.
But you had beaten that time.
But I've beaten that time many, many times before then and since then. And we did the virtual 5K. I think I don't remember what my time was, but it was right at an 8-minute mile pace. So since then, before then, but I struggled, and that was the easiest course I've ever run. And I had already read Nutrition Finances.
Best book in the world, by the way. You can pick that up on Amazon.
Plug that book. I think I was one of the first people to actually buy it, because we were sitting at Starbucks, and I was going to buy it, and I did. So
you might have bought it off the test site.
I think I did. And it made sense. I read it cover to cover, but even when I read it, because I bought it right when it first came out, and I read it, and it made so much sense, and I wanted to do it right away because it appealed to my engineering sense. So if those of you don't know me, I'm in computers, but my first degree is aerospace engineering. So
from
an
a
engineering
local trade school.
Yeah,
right?
small local trade school. The North Avenue Trade School. Yeah. Otherwise known as Georgia Tech, for those who don't know what that is. And so it really appealed to, it made sense. The analogy is amazing to explain how your body works and why it needs calories, how it uses calories, caloric deficit. And the analogy to finances is really clear and easy to understand. And I calculated the macros I needed, and then I sat down at the Starbucks and tried to figure out a meal. And I got anxiety just trying to figure out, how do I plan the macros, right? And I got so much anxiety that I couldn't do it. It took me 2 hours to figure out how much white meat chicken, rice, and broccoli I needed for one meal. And it just doesn't get any simpler than that. And that freaked me out. And so I kind of lost track. And then come August of 2019, I see the race, and now I'm really motivated. And here's the something else that that I've told you about before, which is that there are things that I would like, and there are things that I really want. And for me, the differentiation is, wow, I'd really like to have that shirt. That's a really cool jacket. I want that cup of coffee. So the things that I want are things I'm willing to do something about. And it took that transition to get from when I'd really like it, I'd like to have a six-pack, to I want it bad enough to where I'm willing to learn how to get there. And
that's good.
And thanks to Mike Shore, an amazing member here, and I will never be able to thank him enough for unlocking the key to the door. You gave me the door and all of the information. Mike gave me the key to actually make that so it didn't cause me anxiety. Showed me how to use my MyFitnessPal to easily figure out the macros for any meal. I like to cook, so I didn't have that worry, and I don't mind measuring things. Again, scientific and engineering background, and that unlocked the door. And ever since, so September 2019, I started doing that, and that was the only thing I changed. I wasn't eating less. I think I was eating at least as much, if not more.
Yeah, which is most people under eating. Yeah.
And the pounds melted away, but it wasn't even the pounds. It was the shape and where things were
Oh,
happening.
you look totally different, and you were doing 0 muscle ups before.
Yeah. I couldn't do muscle ups. I couldn't do toe to bar. I could, my endurance, which was my calling card, had dropped significantly. That's why I struggled for that 29:57 5K. All of those things just started immediately ramping back up. Granted, I'm not physically working any harder than I was before I started adopting the nutrition plans and just cooking better and being more control of what we eat. And COVID came, and the timing of that change was really fortuitous because we couldn't go out to eat as much.
Explain to everybody, including me, what fortuitous means.
It was kind of dumb luck that I had begun that journey before COVID started. The timing was just perfect. And so I was ready to continue that. And I was so happy with the results I was already getting. I was feeling better. I was feeling fitter. The fact that you saved so many of us by lending out equipment and
Anytime, guys.
Becoming a media department and having workouts. I mean, who else did that? Nobody. So you saved the whole day and everybody by taking on a challenge, having a beginner's mindset, and seeing every problem as an opportunity. I don't even know how many times you've said that to me before. Give me all the problems that you can. I see all of them as opportunities.
I want new problems all the time.
And you live that. You live that. Everybody can see that. And that's not just words. That's action.
I'm glad you can all see my problems. Appreciate it. Share them with you guys anytime you want.
We can see you solving the problems. We don't always see the problems, but we see you solving the problems. And so through COVID and through that period of time, I was able to actually make progress. So that's where I am. So just to give you, kind of go back to the Area 13.1, Sunday I signed up for September's Area 13.1.
Like this past, like it's done?
This past Sunday,
yeah.
I signed up for the races in September.
Okay,
signed up
cool.
For the half marathon. It's the first time I'd wanted to sign up for a running race in quite a long time. So I signed up. So we'll see how that goes. I'll have a better picture than the one that I started with. But I did want to. There was. I'll tell you about a couple of things. One that are coming up. One is Murph. So I just started getting back to running with a vest on. Weight vest, so I can do Murph.
So Murph, for anybody who doesn't know, big workout we do every May. Our whole gym gets involved, and it's ridiculous. You put a vest on, and you run a mile, then you do 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, and then you run a mile. There's different ways to do it, and it honors a U.S. fallen soldier, and it's just a big event that we do every year.
And the reason that one is so important to me, aside from the fact that of what it commemorates and what it honors, is that that first Murph, 2017, I know that I just joined. I made up some BS excuse for why I couldn't come. I don't even remember what BS excuse I made up, but I know I made up a BS excuse that, oh, well, I'm new, something along those lines. Maybe I think made up some story that I had to be somewhere else. And I remember driving past, and there were folks running on the old Murph mile course. I'm driving up 92 because I didn't have anywhere else I had to be. I was terrified of doing Murph, and that I think is the last time that fear of something like that kept me from doing something. I was so angry at myself watching everybody else run down the street. And at that moment, I just, I'm not going to let fear of failing or fear of looking bad just keep me from doing something again. And so I worked my butt off to be able to do Murph the next year. And so Murph for me is, like I said, it's the last thing that I was afraid to do, and I let that fear take over. And all I needed to remember was, back to the phrase, effort over everything. All I needed to remember was the effort is what matters. Go out, put in the effort, and you win. And if I'd remembered that, I would have said, yeah, I'll be here for Murph. And I wouldn't have been upset at myself for an entire year until I could do it the next year.
I never heard that story in that depth. I've heard like part of it, but not like all that. Like, dude, that's effort over everything. That's like mental just, oh man, there's so many ways you could have receded, but you didn't. You're like, that goes back to your 4 virtues or whatever. Am I giving my 100%?
Yeah. It's, I just keep having to remember those. But it works. It just works. Just show up. You win. You walk through the door, show up. That's all it takes. Come in. If you can do half the exercises, do half the exercises. Don't be afraid to scale. I scale everything every day. There's so few workouts I do RX, folks.
Scaling is fantastic. Promise. That's like my favorite.
I can do like three workouts RX here. If they don't have, if they have running, I can usually do them. I can usually do that part RX, but almost everything else I can never do RX.
Yeah, I notice like when I work out like with the classes and stuff, then I'll get in the groups with like the boys, and I'm like, I don't think you guys understand. You have some preconceived notion that I can deadlift like 500 pounds. Like you're all so much stronger than I could ever be, and that's not like putting myself down. My body loves to run. That's what it's made to do. Getting strong is quite challenging.
Yeah. So, just remember those things. Just keep those things in mind when you're walking in the doors. Don't feel like, I'm struggling to do push-ups. I think I told maybe Sarah and Trinil this the other day, that for the first year that I was here, I didn't come close to doing on the rope climbs to doing anything other than lying down on my back, pulling myself up to a seated position. Then, wow, huge progress, pulling myself up to a standing position. That it took a year before I could get past that. And now I can do a ton of rope climbs. So show up, put in the effort. Don't feel bad about what if you're here, you're gonna make progress. Period. It's just gonna happen if you put in that effort.
Dude, I love it, man. I love it so much. Thank you for coming on, man. That was just like, I learned a whole bunch. That was just like, wish we had another 3 hours. I mean, that's just, it's effort. It's showing up. It's giving your 100%. It's everything that you said, just being consistent, jamming out. That was really special what you said, not being able to like share it with other people. And then you started looking at StrongSide as like, oh man, maybe I can share fitness with other people, helping other people out, helping them run sub 2 hours. Like that was a lot of good stuff.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And thanks for having me. And just, this place and more what it means. It's not the place. It's what it means. It's all the things that you do to infuse what StrongSide means. Your StrongSide Summit. That's just the kinds of things that people may not necessarily understand how it impacts them on a day-to-day basis, but it does every single day when Nate, Zach, and Ashley and Kaylee and all the coaches and Carrie stand up in front of us. When you see anything that you see here that's new or different ways of doing things. I've been here long enough, almost 4 years, that I've seen a lot of the changes, and I know that every single change, every single thing you do is to make things better for us, and that just makes it easy to want to come back. So thank you.
Sweet, dude. I'm glad you're liking it. Hey guys, don't forget to give us a 5-star. Show Adam some love. Share this podcast with somebody that you like or want to share the podcast with. Thank you guys.